Ровно 23 года назад, 24 марта 1999 года, около 8 часов вечера над небом...
Exactly 23 years ago, on the 24th of March 1999, at about 8 o'clock in the evening, the sky over Belgrade was illuminated by flashes of bomb explosions. These were the first attacks of the Western coalition of NATO and Russia supported the international right. And so it means that these events improved our collaboration and also supported our coalition. So today we're going to discuss this event with Slavenko Terzic, a well-known Serbian scientist, diplomat, doctor of history and sciences, professor, ambassador, extraordinary and plenipotentiary of the Republic of Serbia to the Russian Federation in 2013 to 2019. Good afternoon, dear Sandra. Good afternoon, dear friends. Good afternoon, Gorchakov Foundation. And this is right, that happened 23 years ago, but it seems to me that it happened yesterday. That aggressive, awful thing between NATO and Serbia, that was the first military aggression of NATO after the Second World War to a state in Europe. Well, as we know, it is still traumatic for all of us. We've discussed it with you recently that you are still traumatic because you saw it personally and your impressions. And I think that today we'll discuss this with utmost attention. I don't think we can and should ever forget about it. History is something we need to remember always and to move forward. Today, as I've discussed, we'll discuss the recent events and what happened 23 years ago. So let's start with the questions. What was the impact of the NATO aggression to the development of the civil society in Serbia? Well, the circumstances were just awful. In short, the aggression had several stages, and always it is like this. The preparation is comes from mass media. It is always, and it was about Serbia. And in accordance with that propaganda, it was described that Serbia had always been the aggression, and that was the preparation. The second stage is the bombing, the attack, 72 days, and then these circumstances. And they were dreadful: military, economical, psychological. Also, the health of the population really impaired. The rate of cancer among the Serbian population raised. And number 4, there was the ethnic purification, and more than 80,000 Serbian people became refugees. Also Romans and Turks, and in the long run, in the 2008, the so-called independent Republic of Kosovo was declared, and as Professor Tamariova said, that was the bandit, was the state which was admitted and approved by NATO. So what happened? For 78 days, Yugoslavia was bound from 100 and 1,100, even more devices. F-170A was among them. That aircraft was crushed by our people, and were kidding that we didn't know that it was the one we could not see. So the military storages were bombed, and also the barracks. And when they saw that the civil spirit was okay, they started to bomb hospitals and bridges. For instance, in the new garden, Novi Garden, all the three bridges were just destroyed um, across the Donau River. Also, the factories were bombed, and all above Belgrade there were clouds of smoke. And in the center of Belgrade, the television, the civil television of NATO was also attacked. And it was strange that the NATO television was also bombed. In the last weeks of their aggression, they used cassette bombs, 37,000 cassette bombs, more than 1,000 huge rockets. And at night they were bombed, and also there were leaflets with propaganda. So tell Milosevic that he was the bad man, but so many of them. So 3.5 thousand civilian population was murdered, more than 500 policemen and military people. So as you know, in the Northern Macedonia was declared, and the resolution 1344, which declared that Kosovo remained in Yugoslavia, and we have the international protectorship under NATO. Just immediately after 40,000 people of military troops of NATO and also Albanian terrorists. And after that, the Albanian terrorists, they also made the Serbians to go away. They attacked them, they killed them, they even took some organs of Serbian people. What they did was totally illegal and a total aggression of this so-called civilized, developed Western countries against one. So in 2008, we became, so to say, independent, and since then there is no stability in the region. Let me add, the major goal of NATO was celebrating the NATO anniversary. That was the time of their crisis, and so they needed something new. Number two, the new strategic location of NATO in Eastern Europe, closer to Russia, creating the biggest ever military base in Kosovo, and using the conclusion. And Albanians were somewhere at the background of the project and helping them, so to say. If you allow me, because I do remember that time very well too. And I do remember the t-shirts and the flyers with the target sign. Boom, if you want, we are there. And I do remember the spirits of people there, which were really low. And I remember those people from Kosovo. They didn't have any home. They had no place to go to, because they were evicted from there. Also, I do remember the bombing. That was the time when the Serbian television was bombed, the interview of the current president, Alexander Vucic, was to be shown there. That is really significant. There were so little people there in the television tower because all the Western companies, they evacuated their people. So was that attack by chance or not? I don't know. No, nothing really happened by chance. Everything was planned. Absolutely. The information war conducted at that time was conducted at that time and is conducted now in Ukraine. Maybe you, as a person who was in Belgrade at that time, could probably speak in more detail how it was shown in the society. I mean, you also had access to the documents and the news of the West last December. There was video projection to the US Embassy in Moscow. And that was the Times front page with the Serbians standing on their knees so that we were to be just attacked and killed. Also, NATO attacked the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. I don't know how many people were killed there, but some of the officers and some journalists were there. They said that they did it because their maps were old ones and that happened by chance. I don't know. Anglo-Saxons, well, they are masters of this mass information propaganda war, which starts with stigmatization of the leader of the country. That time it was Milosevic. The war of Milosevic's aggression, the criminal Milosevic. But the unique thing is that during the military aggression of NATO to Yugoslavia, President Milosevic was accused by the prosecution Prague, and that was during the time of aggression to Yugoslavia. It's like now they say that Putin is the criminal, so it's the stigmatization, criminalization of the top person of the state, and then the whole population. I remember Tony Blair, Schroeder said about Yugoslavians, these people are crazy people, they are criminals. They need to be eliminated. So this is the first step of propaganda, to show the people and the leader as the criminal. And this is what they do now. I remember in the city of Sarajevo, some people were killed and Serbs were accused, but that I remember how it started. They said that the Serbs killed civil people of Albania in Racic, Kosovo. Little Kosko, the American general, was the best actor because he did a lot of things in Latin America. Actually, there were dead Albanian terrorists, and their dead bodies were brought to one place from hospitals, from some other places, and in the morning, oh la la, there were pictures of, so to say, murdered civil people, like President Biden. I remember Hillary Clinton called her husband, who was busy with Monica Lewinsky from Africa, saying, you shouldn't be responsible to this genocide. the Westerns, are the masters of deceive and provocative statements. And we know what happened in Bosnia, Herzegovina, in Croatia, and then in Serbia. And it turned out that that propaganda really worked. And Michel was the leader, the main deceiving guy. And every day he spoke because he wanted to press our army psychologically, saying how many tanks were destroyed. But as soon as the war was over, it turned out that practically no tank from Serbia was destroyed because they came back. When NATO started aggression to Yugoslavia, they started with propaganda. And this is what, unfortunately, we can see in Europe regarding Russia, President of Russia, and Russian people. It seems to me it can be compared before the start and during of the Second World War. If we consider the fact that for many years they really wanted it, and to show the Serbian people to be responsible for genocide, I think it's quite clear what the Western society thinks regarding Serbia and the Serbian nation. Providing the pressure of today towards the leadership of the country, which has never been more strong with pressure. What do you think about the possible relations with the NATO and with the European Union? Because what is happening today can have a negative impact on Serbia and the Serbian industry. Sandra, this is a difficult question, but I'll try to answer. If we speak about civilized Europe, provided that NATO expands to the east, expanding the Western, so to say, values to the West, we can see what these values are in Kosovo. The ethnic purification, the depopulation, and more than 140 Serbian churches, monasteries, and cloisters were destroyed. And even now, the Serbs there live in, so to say, ghetto as the people of the second sort, so to say. These are the Western values. What will happen next? Well, today, Serbia is pressed so much. You know that many countries of the Balkans are now NATO members. This is Hungary and Croatia, everyone but Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. Everyone else is in NATO. So the pressure is military, strategic, propaganda. Serbia has done a lot to be the European Union member, though officially the Serbian leadership has declared many times they don't want to be official members of any military alliance, NATO, or anything else. Serbia wants to be neutral, and this is the right point of view as I see it. And we stick to it. But as I can see, Serbia goes towards European Union. Recently, the people's attitude has changed to it, not so enthusiastic as before, but blackmail is one of the instruments. You know that Serbia hasn't joined the sanctions against Russia, but I've heard that the Germans use the word Western Balkans. I don't know what they mean by Western or Eastern. So they say that Serbia is obliged to join the sanctions against Russia. Though formally, Serbia is not the European Union member yet. And we don't have the obligation to harmonize our policy with that of the European Union. But a lot of people in Serbia are against any sanctions against Russian people. Serbia is pressed under pressure, really, and things depend on how the international issues will happen. My friends are shocked regarding criminalization or stigmatizing of Russia, the Russian population. It looks like special racism towards Russia in Germany, for instance, in hospitals, at universities, in the streets. What is it? This is something we haven't seen for ages. It can be compared only with the attitude towards Jews before the start of the Second World War. But Russia has done so much for liberation of Europe against Nazism. So I would like to believe that there is enough reason and common sense in the European leaders to value their interests. Russia is part of the European civilization. What is the European civilization, European culture, without the huge developments of the Russian culture? Also, the Russian oil and gas. This collaboration is really important. So I would like to believe in the common sense of European leaders who shouldn't be the colony, the protectorate of the USA shouldn't be dictated by the USA, but support their interests going back to the normal good collaboration with the Russian Federation. As we know, the relations between Russia and Serbia have always been great and friendly, as still is, and I hope that after the elections, which will happen the 3rd of April, nothing will change, though the pressure is strong, as you've said. It's been really interesting for me. What about Bulgaria? Bulgaria, regarding its internal state political issues, was not ready to be the member of the European Union, but it was attracted there. And I hope that any decision of Serbia will be supported by common sense and for the interest of our people. What if Serbia enters the European Union, not NATO? Will the relations with Russia change? Well, the first question is regarding the European Union in future. you can see that there are the issues and there is misunderstanding between the so-called old and new Europe, like Bulgaria, Romania, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and other Central European states. So Serbia clearly moves towards the European Union, but it's been a long way. I don't think it can be realistic in the near future, though. Quite recently, I've heard the words by some leaders, German or whatever, say that the Western Balkans should be accepted to the European Union as soon as possible. Let's not wait. Well, I think this process will last for a long time. Speaking about NATO membership, I cannot imagine Serbia there. This is the military alliance which attacked us just 23 years ago, ruined so many buildings and killed so many people. I've mentioned cancer increase after the bombing. I don't know if they used any biological substances. So I don't think Serbia will forget about it in the near future. But if Serbia enters the European Union, the agreement with the Russian Federation of no customers fee, for instance, will no longer operate, unfortunately. But there will be some new rules and new of collaboration. I am neither a politician or a diplomat today. I only do science, working for the Academy of Science. But I know very well that in Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia-Herzegovina will always relate to Russia as to friends and brothers, sisters. And the Serbians know that Russia has been for hundreds of years and is still our true friend. Mr. Terzic, you'll always remain Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary for us. You will always remain in our hearts. We're always happy to see you here. Hope that the borders will open and you're really welcome here. Yes, I miss Russia, but you know, we have Professor Popovich and you, Ambassador, and I hope that our relations will be even better and better than before. Tell me, please, Mr. Terzic, what is the attitude of Serbia, the Serbian leadership, with the leadership of Kosovo and Metohija? You know, Kosovo have temporary leadership. You know, officials, the temporary officials of Pristina are derived from NATO and Western. And Ramush Kodinai, who was the prime minister of that temporary administration, said we don't have any external politics. Our external politics is that of the United States of America. And this is the answer to your question. I don't think Serbian leadership will ever approve this leadership of, so to say, Kosovo and Metohija. But for normal life of the Serbs who live there, for their economic and educational development. Serbia is ready to conduct negotiations. As you know, Montenegro were to negotiate with us in the European Union. That was the mistake. I'm sure that the resolution of Security Council is the most important for us, and the United Nations is the place for negotiations, should be the place for negotiations, and not the European Union. The Western doesn't want stabilization in this region. They want conflicts to have an impact to different sides. It's difficult to believe that some new administration will come to Pristina, which will be ready to improve and normalize the relations with Serbia. So we think that Kosovo legally is part of Serbia, and Serbia is ready to refer autonomy to it, but as part of the Republic of Serbia legally. But what's the attitude of Serbians, people in Serbia, to the international organizations? So regardless of the pressure of Russia against bombing of Belgrade, it happened. And as I think it, maybe you think it differently, there are little people from the international institutions who can promote peace. Well, what do you think about it? Unfortunately, practically all the international organizations and institutions have become instruments of the policy of the USA and some leading Western countries. And it's really a pity because it blocks the international system and it ruins or brings to the crisis the international order. We want the world to be civilized, so we need some rules so we can see regarding Russia. All the international institutions are the same, and I was shocked about it. For instance, you remember this nomination of the Tree of Europe of the Year, and the tree planted by Ivan Turgenev, the Russian poet, the Russian writer, was removed from the award. That is crazy. And until we have the international rules, the international order, nothing can be normal. Because it started with the aggression to Yugoslavia, to Iraq, the United States and their people, they do what they want. Speaking about the Russian Federation, it has helped Serbia a lot in the international institutions, in UNESCO, in the World Trade Organization. And as the former ambassador who witnessed all this, I would like to thank the representatives of the Russian Federation who have always respected and supported Serbia. Thank you so very much. My last question is from the Gorchagov Foundation. We've always been doing international democracy, and I hope that will support our friendly collaboration, our friendship. But when the relations of the West and Russia is discussed, the Westerns always refuse dialogue. They, you are in Belgrade. You've been there for 2 years already. Maybe you know better how Western NGOs can or could influence the future of Serbia if there's not really good uh, issue and spoil the relations with Russia. You're right. In the Balkans and in Russia, there have been so many so-called NGOs. Many of them have been funded directly from the budget of different governments. In Serbia, uh, there is 100 even more different NGOs and foundations. Some of them are Western, some of them are Muslim, some of them are Arabic, but the majority of them are Western. They are very active. In recent weeks, they've been even more active regarding the policies of their states they're funded from. So they promote this politics. They are funded a lot, and I don't believe they can do something objectively. They can act independently. Belgrade uh, and in Belgrade, in other Serbian cities and towns, they are represented. They've started to speak on TV, but speaking about their influence to the people, it's really not big. For some intelligent people of Belgrade and other big cities, they probably have some influence, but no more, though they are really active and they are well funded, well paid, really. But I don't believe in their true influence to the politics of Serbia and to the Serbian people. Practically every day, they launch different sessions and events, conferences, and they are the only institutions in Serbia against President Putin and Russian people. These institutions and Europe have shown their true face, their true self. So they've taught us about the freedom, the international right, uh, democracy, but we can see that they don't do anything like this. Freedom of the world. It's difficult to speak about it, especially in Western countries today. All the doors are closed now. We cannot watch Russia today, but if you're Democrats, guys, let's hear the other party because it's not democracy. Because we can watch channel 1 of the Russian television. But after that, we have two Ukrainian channels, one in Russian and one in Ukrainian. And is this freedom of speech? Well, this, so to say, uh, information war has always been and will always be, but Elena Ponomaryova has said we cannot lose this information war because we don't participate in it. Unfortunately, that was the situation with Serbia and Yugoslavia in 1999, and that was the war we unfortunately lost. But we couldn't lose in time. Thank you so very much, Mr. Terzic. It's honor and privilege for us that you are with us, that you stay in touch with us. I will be really glad and happy if you join us. We remember our meetings always, and we'll be always glad to see you. Many thanks to you for this interesting and nice conversation for me. Let me remind you of the fact we'll never forget that awful aggression of NATO. And I would like to wish you personally, your colleagues from the Gorchakov Foundation, all the best. I'm always ready for collaboration. And Gorchakov, as I've stated, has been the great Russian diplomat, and our diplomacy can learn a lot from Chancellor Gorchakov. Thank you. So Sandra Stelkovich has been online with you. Watch live with the expert next Thursday at 6 p.m. as usual Moscow time. See you.
Hvala vam puno.
Hvala vama, da mi se dobro bilo, a?
Ja mislim da to što nismo išli po scenariju je bilo bolje nego ono što smo htjeli.
Da.
Dobro.